Welcome back to Broker Talk. Every week we have a new guest on who shares their understanding of real estate and what it's like to be a real estate agent. I thought, since my guest got sick and I don't have anyone, I'd talk a little bit about origin story, branding, what you do as a real estate agent, and really begin to share what made me who I am. So here's my origin story, or how I became who I am, in some cases, why. Growing up in the summer of the 60s, Dad left Mom and us and our home. We didn't see or hear from him for 6 months. My dad was a home delivery milkman at the time, when people didn't lock their doors. The only way I got to see my dad was by waking up at 2 in the morning, going out into the cold dark, knowing that I could have hot chocolate for breakfast, and the other guys would rustle my hair and call me the kid. I never mind waking up to really work for my dad. I went into people's homes before they were awake and put the milk, eggs, and cheese in their refrigerator. That is where I picked up the code of confidentiality. Everyone has a dirty drawer, a sock drawer. Not that I was looking in drawers. Um, I, but confidentiality, you just don't talk about what you know. I had a friend who had 5 brothers and he had a car. We would drive all around beautiful Bucks County where I grew up, looking at houses and talking about families. This is where I learned reasonable care. Reasonable care in real estate terms means you deeply know and understand the specific market, the house, the style, the layout. It means so much more than that term, just reasonable care. It's part of the acronym in real estate, old car. Uh, Disclosure and loyalty were forged into my brain. Disclosure is you don't hold back, you share oil of the information. Loyalty means you give much trust to that relationship, and so disclosure isn't even a question. Accountability has always been part of my makeup. So many examples of that on teams, in committees, serving the community, just like I did when I was a kid and I was in your kitchen at 3 a.m. I knew every inch of your place, and more important, every squeak in the house from the door to the fridge and back. I know the details, and it makes a difference from house to house. Each house is different. Everyone leaves dishes in the sink from time to time. Obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accountability, and reasonable care is the oath realtors consider and they accept. A way to be measured. That is the other part that intrigues me. As an agent, I think you should, at a minimum, know the price of a home and have an understanding of who the buyer should and probably will be. The person that buys a property is often the same type of person in their lives that the seller was when they bought the place. That happens, and joy is in the person who is best suited for happiness, for that house. I've always focused on more than square footage, price, and location. Is this the right house at the right time for the right buyer, for the buyer? That's the answer. Accountability is answering your phone when it rings and doing what you say and following up with answers and results. That's accountability. Land is the bottom, the basis of all of this. It is the foundation that all else above stands on. The Realtor Code starts as follows. Under all is the land. Upon its wise utilization and a widely allocated ownership depend the survival and growth of free institutions in our civilization. What that's really saying is homeowners, this is why it's so important. And your realtor must really have that in their heart to be able to sell you. going on, realtors should recognize that the interests of the nation and its citizens require the highest and best use of the land and the widest distribution of land ownership. They require the creation of adequate housing, the building of functioning citizens, the development of productive industries and farms, and the preservation of a healthful environment. That's an awful lot to say, isn't it? Um, I believe every word of this, and I've followed that within my code. Not everybody is a realtor. Not everybody, not all realtors answer the phone or get back to you or anything. There are so many things that differentiate one person from another. A lot of it is knowledge and caring. Back to the code. Such interests impose obligations beyond those of ordinary commerce. They impose grave social responsibility and patriotic duty to which realtors should dedicate themselves and for which they should be diligent in preparing themselves. Learn, grow, share. Back again. Realtors, therefore, are zealous to maintain and improve the standards of their calling and share with their fellow realtors a common responsibility for its integrity and honor. They say in the industry, co broke or go broke. Be a good citizen to your um, clients and also to the people who are the buyers and their clients. Back. In recognition and appreciation of their obligations to clients, customers, the public, and each other, realtors continuously strive to become and remain informed on issues affecting real estate. And as knowledgeable professionals, they willingly share the fruit of their experience and study with others. There shouldn't be any secrets. Again, that's the disclosure part. Such interests impose obligation beyond those of ordinary commerce. That sounds like I have just gone through that. And in this point, now back to my own origin story, I absolutely love that. That's the preamble to the Realtor Code. And I think it says so much more than, hey, who's the best agent? Who has the most signs? Who sold the most? Who does your brother, sister know? Um, this is a profession, and it demands a great deal of understanding houses, building, plumbing, electric, let alone the emotional and financial issues involved in this. Financial, usually the biggest thing in anyone's life. Financial products are just that. They're products. You buy these shoes, you buy those shoes. Some will make you more comfortable than others. That's what I mean about product. Your brand, how you communicate who you are, was always kind of interesting to me. I was a commercial photographer for 25, 30 years. And what I did was take pictures and tell stories for corporations and philanthropies and hospitals and schools to tell their story. It made me very aware of what brand was. Everyone is talking about brand, and brand as a real estate agent is really important. And that's something beyond your agency, your franchise. If you work for a franchise, your franchise wants you to promote their name, their number, their all of that, and in fact require that. There are some real estate is changing. And there are some companies out there that don't require that because everyone knows who's ever worked with an agent. It's not about that agency. It's about the individual. It's about what they do for you, how they do it, and how smooth it went for you. So brand, your own personal brand, is important. How do you do that? How do you figure it out? Well, I heard a number of years ago, and I'm going to share it with you now, The best way to do this is ask 10 people what three characteristics they think of when they think of you. It's a simple question. Don't say anything else after you've asked them that. They need to come up with those characteristics themselves. Don't help them by saying, "Oh, I'm funny, I'm loyal, I'm this." Don't do that. Let them come up with it. And when they tell you, there's a puzzle of 30 characteristics after you ask 10 people. Now, some of them you're going to work with, some of them you're going to work for, some are people who your barber, your hairstylist, that's kind of the same thing, except maybe gender difference. I don't know. I'm old. I get those things confused. Um, Anyway, those characteristics, when they come back, I had an idea of who I was. And when they came back for me many years ago, I found out what I thought I was wasn't what the people who were around me were. So again, it's people you worked with, people you worked for, people you come in contact with on a regular basis over a period of time, and even throw in your mom, your friend, your partner, your significant other. They know you better, but they may not be as accurate or look at you the same way as this range of different people. Um, that way, you kind of hit all the circles of personality over multiple times and circumstances. Try this if you think you have a brand. You might be surprised. You might realize that what you have is something else, but what you can build on is what you heard. That's where I came up with the understanding that I listened for a living. You can't do anything unless you know what the other person is thinking. And so many agents are so filled with scripts and words, they don't have the ability to sit and listen to what your real needs are, what you want, how you're going to get it. So that's why I named my company Your Stories, because it's not about me. It's always about you. That's how I answer every single email. It's about you, and it truly is. So anyway, there is a number of things every single agent should do when they're starting out. And it's going to begin and end with education because what you know is critical to what you can do. And you don't want to be spewing facts. You want facts to work for the situation. So quite often people are don't want to be sold. They want reasons to buy. So you need to understand what they're looking for so you can highlight that if it's correct for them. But education, you really need to be paying attention. It is your job, it is your profession to know what's going on with the interest rates, to know what's going on Main Street, just like you have to know what's going on Dead End Road. You need to understand what the market is, and by the way, that market changes every single day. The minute when they talk about averages in real estate, they're talking about averages at that particular point. You ask them for the average. Take, for instance, you have a neighborhood, and this happens where you have there's always the best house in the block. And by the way, don't buy that one because there's no way to go up from that. You're just kind of held down by everybody else. But you've got a very high end property, and then you've got some properties where the people have lived in there 50 years, and the kids have moved out, and the senior citizens living in there, they really can't get out and weed the yard and paint and change the things. So it begins to be disrepaired. So if you're a mid-priced house in that neighborhood and that most expensive house goes on the market, then when they do an analysis of that neighborhood, that most expensive house is going to bring everything up because they're averaged into it according to um, according to location and as some other criteria. There's actually 17 different criteria that determine price and valuation. That's what appraisers do. Um, what agents do is try to get their sellers as much as they can. What buyer's agents try and do is get the right deal for their clients. And therein is the way the market works. But you can't do anything as a professional unless you have insight into the information. The next thing, there's only 7 of these. The next thing is get a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. We are a technological um, juggernaut right now. You can talk to anybody on 18, 20 different platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so many of them. It's mind boggling. You need to have a system where you keep everybody's name, number, and information in a place so you can communicate to them what they need at a time that it makes the most sense. So if you have a buyer, they want to know what's selling in that market. But if you have a seller, they need to know not only what's selling, but why, and if it's above market, below market, how many people have come into their open houses, what's going on with it, how is it being marketed. Again, that's really important, and how you control all of that is your CRM. There are many, many good ones. I'm happy to talk to anybody. If they want to call, reach out to me. I'll talk to you. I've had all of the top ones, and they all work great if you work them. They all work differently. So you need to find one that works for the way that you work. Happy to talk about that. Reach out. Set up your social media, your Google business page, your business integration, Instagram and Facebook, all the social media sites, and begin to understand what people are wanting to look at. Please stop posting those pictures with you with your happy clients with the keys and them standing in front of the house. That's not for them. That's for you. That's you giving yourself a pat on the back. Look what I did. It's not a good look. You want to highlight your clients, and if they're generous enough to pose for you like that, say something important that makes them feel good. You know, Tammy and John really needed to get this house in a timely face because they just had baby Sonia. Something that's personal that makes a difference. Not when you just put it up. Hey, I just sold this, and you think that's you doing a good job. Um, Kind of not, in my estimation. And please reach out to me if you think not. I'm happy to hear that too. The other thing is, I dress like this all the time. You don't have to dress like this, but the whole thing about how you look and what you drive and all of that. It's just like driving up to the house. It's that first impression. We are a financial services industry. We do important stuff. You should look businesslike. You should look like the person when they first see you is going to say, yeah, they're just the right person to take on this really complex thing for me. I know that they can do that. So that's the end of dressing appropriately. But we're back to setting up your social media. Automate your inquiries and incoming requests. When people reach out to you, you have to anticipate that at some point you're going to be so busy that you still want people to be acknowledged when they come in. It's like going into a restaurant. When you go into a restaurant, it can be really busy or it can be dead slow. If you don't get acknowledged, you don't feel acknowledged. It's as simple as that. I don't care how busy you are. Anybody who's running around can give you eye contact and say, I'll be right with you. As you see, I'm really busy. Then they understand what's going on. And that's the other thing about not answering your phone. If you don't answer your phone, they don't know when you're going to get back to you. And all of your clients deserve that level of accountability. Old car. They deserve that accountability. So if they leave a message and you need to call them back either right away, certainly during that day. And I've always said to all my clients, if you don't hear from me by the end of the day, or certainly by the beginning of the next day, send flowers. I'm dead. You have to be accountable for your time and where you are. When your client has a question, that's the only thing they're thinking of. I know you have 30 things to do, but that client, all they care about is what their question is. So send out welcome notes, automate it a little bit better, and they're happy to have heard back from you, even though it's automated. Make it personable enough. Don't use the script that's already in there, please, because you don't talk like a script. That's figured out to work across the country, but you might be in the Northeast, you might be in Texas, you might be in Florida, you could be anywhere. And the way people talk and communicate is different. Say it in an authentic and real way. Create that welcome email that communicates you and your brand. And most importantly, all of that is your value to the people getting the email. You need to be aware every single moment that the people that are talking to you like and trust you enough to do so, but you need to be giving them value. If you're not giving them value, then why would they talk to you? It's as simple as that. It's a zero sum game. Be of value or don't. It's not about your personality. It's about your results. Um, be prolific and consistent with your posting content. Blogs, pictures, video, post it all, but make sure it's of value. And I already talked about that just sold picture that you do. Be better. Use video. Don't be stupid. Don't try to be funny if you're not. I used to say to my son, when somebody says don't be stupid, it makes you wonder. I used to say that to my son every day he grew up. Go out, have fun, don't do anything stupid. He was about 17 at one point, and he was home and he was borrowing my car and he was going to go into the city. Well, I live right outside Boston. And I said, my regular thing, go out, have fun, and hey, don't do anything stupid. Realizing that he's in my car, and there's all kinds of things that kids can do and all that kind of stuff. So he had heard it 1,000 times. He leaves the house. I hear him driving out. I've got a pretty long driveway, and I hear him drive out. I hear him back in, comes back into the house and leans up against the wall, and he says, Dad, trying to be casual, sometimes you don't know it's stupid till you do it. And I said, exactly. And so be authentic. And if you say something stupid or do something stupid, acknowledge it right away. Be accountable. Um, Back to the 7 things you should be doing. Create a cloud file system. There is no better time to set up the way that you communicate with people when you have very few people to communicate. But when you have a whole bunch of people you have to communicate, you're glad you have a system, and you can't do a system on the fly. You have to really think it through. Where is this information going to be saved? How is it going to be delivered? How am I going to find it when I need it? What do I call it? Um, all different kinds of things. Most people do it using the address of the property. That's a really good way. That's the way I do it. I learned that from somebody else. Create a listing presentation. And, I used to go into presentations all the time, and I would hold up, and I started 13 years ago, 2010, almost. It'll be 13 years in November. So it's 12 years plus. Um, I used to go in, and that was back in the days when everything was canned, everything, and it was given to you by your franchise. And so I would go in, and I would have on my laptop, hey, I would like to show you this, 45-minute presentation that shows why we're so good and why we're the best, and how everybody else has thought about us. Or I could ask you these 20 questions, and we could talk about you. Which would you like to do? I can leave this as a package for you and you can browse it, but I'm sure you've seen 3 or 4 others already. And they would say, let's start with the questions. Make it about them. Your presentation is not about you and your franchise. It's about the market and what you can do for them in the market. So don't take a canned presentation given to you by a franchise, really think about it. Maybe give it to yourself. Maybe give it to a friend and say, "Does this make sense?" Um, Practice this kind of stuff. I used to practice back in the day when you first started with scripts and everything. I wanted to practice scripts. I had, done a very little bit of bad theater back in my day, so I knew you had to memorize stuff and then, deliver it in some kind of appropriate way. And I had a golden retriever, loved that dog, loved Comet. Um, and I would do my scripts on him when he would be very attentive at the beginning. If I was animated, if I was talking, if I used gestures, the minute I lost energy or it sounded like he had heard it before, even though he had just heard it like 3 times, 4 times, um, I knew I wasn't being authentic and I wasn't doing it in the right way. Practice this stuff. Be good at what you do. It makes you feel good. And whether you win or you lose, you're going to win more. You're not going to win more than you lose. You're going to lose far more than you win. But all that losing is going to help you to be better. It's going to be practice and learning what not to do or learning what to do in a different situation. A lot of the time, it's not you, it's them. They may have made the decision on you when they first saw you, when you sat down, the questions you asked, the way you asked them, how you didn't listen. Decisions are made in so many different levels and so many. You just have to be yourself. You have to be prepared, and you have to be really focused up on them and how you can help them. Sign up for conferences. A lot of people don't want to go to conferences because it's expensive. You got to be away from home. You think it's a boondoggle. There is no better way to be around a whole bunch of people that do what you do, so you can get a sense of where you are within all of that, and you can learn a whole bunch. Keep learning. This is the full circle of this industry, is you keep learning, you keep growing, you keep being curious. The bottom line is there are 1,000 ways to find your way in this business, in this industry. There are more ways to fail. And that's by not being accountable, by not being loyal, by not, everything that you're supposed to be: obedience, loyalty, communication, responsible action, responsible care, reasonable care. Those, if you're not doing those, why would anybody want to work for you, with you? Hey, thanks for sticking with me through this origin story. If I can answer any of your questions or you need mentorship in this industry, reach out. I have at least one good ear, and I do listen for a living. Thank you so much. I don't think I'd make it a whole 30-minute show, but I know when to go home. Thanks again, and great to talk to you. Thanks for listening and being part of Broker Talk. Here comes my theme music. See you next week when my guest is going to be a great inspector. Everybody needs to understand what inspectors do. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Recording stopped.